This is a tour and demonstration, if you will, of the pipe organ at the Presbyterian Church. First of all, the organ consists of, in this case, 3 divisions. Each has its own keyboard, or you have the pedal board. To the front, on the right, you can see several rows of pipes. Those are played by the lower keyboard called the grate. The name comes from the fact that that's kind of the core of the instrument. If you only had one keyboard, it would usually be the grate. And that's where we have our basic chorus of sounds. And we have some flutes. And this ethereal little sound. We'll go through what those are later. And of course, up above, also part of the grate, the trompette en chamade, which was added, I guess, in the early 1970s. All of that is in the grate. Behind the grate, you see 2 levels of shutters. That is the swell division, played by the upper keyboard. It's called the swell because it's enclosed in shutters, which allows you, as you open it, to swell the sound. Name may seem silly, but that's the tradition. So that gives me expressive control. That's nice for loud settings as well as for soft ones. Now on this organ, a lot of what's played in the pedal is using sets of pipes from the swell. But there are 2 or 3 sets of pipes that are indigenous only to the pedal. And those are the tall pipes you see on the left. That's the contrabass. And that's available at that pitch, 16 feet, so called because the low C is about 16 feet high, an octave higher. So we use that same set of pipes at 3 different pitch levels. And then there's what's called a mixture, which is a combination of more than one set of pipes designed to reinforce some higher harmonics. It's the Rausch quint. And all of that is in that section to the left. Now we'll go into taking a look actually inside the divisions. Here we have the lungs of the organ, as it were. This is the blower. Now, the blower company that worked with Moller, it was actually sort of a division of the Moller organ company called Kinetic Blowers. So this is one of theirs. In it you have a motor driving a central shaft, and inside there are a few sets of fan blades. Air is taken in from underneath, filtered, I hope, and then pushed up into the reservoir. Now this organ has many reservoirs, but this is maybe the easiest one to see. So the raw air comes up on the left and pushes the top of this up. You see it looks kind of like a bellows. It's got leather gussets, they call them, on all the corners so that it bends. So the air pushes it up, and that raises a curtain valve, which is kind of like a cloth division actually. That blocks the air, and as there's a call for any air pressure, this is the duct going up to the organ. As there's a demand for air, the top drops, releases the curtain valve, and allows air to come in. So that regulates the amount of air that flows into the organ. Now we are in the organ chamber. Here is where the wind line comes up from the basement, and here it's branching off to part of the pedal. Here we see the pipes of the Rausch quint. Those are higher pitches, therefore shorter pipes. Here we see the back of the contrabass. That's the 16-foot principal stop I was showing you earlier. The principal refers, by the way, to a basic organ tone, not imitating any other instrument, but it's the foundation, the core of the instrument. And here we see other reservoirs controlling the air pressure for various parts of the instrument. Sometimes different pressures are needed for different divisions. I don't honestly know what the pressures are that are at work here, but you can see some of the action here. If you look up, you can see a lot of little electrical wires, and those are sending a signal. Under those caps you see are little magnets, and those magnets operate little valves that admit air pressure under the pipes. That's the very simple version of the explanation. I'll show you the nerve center of the organ too, where the electrical connections are made. Here we have a set of switches that engage contacts, and these are used both for main keying for divisions, like you see great station cut out there, but then in places where one set of pipes are used in more than one place, we have separate switches that access the same set of pipes. So we see the swell gedeckt, that's a flute, and then that stop is, those pipes are used in the swell, or in the pedal rather, at 16, 8, and 4. So each of those has its own switch, and this row of terminals here are where it connects to the magnets under those individual stops. Here we have the rectifier, which provides approximately 12 volts of DC power for working all the contact systems in the organ. Organ pipes come in two broad categories, the flues and the reeds. The flues work like a recorder, such as you might have played in school. Air comes through the toe, think of that as being the mouthpiece, and that air comes up right here between the lower lip, and there's a flat piece inside called the languid, and that forms the air into a sheet that strikes the upper lip, goes out and in and out and in, and that vibration starts the sound. The length of the pipe determines the wavelength and therefore the pitch. Differences in how thick or how wide the pipe is, and sometimes in the material used, cause some variations in the sound, but most of the pipes in the organ work on this principle. The other category is the reeds. Think of the reed as working like a clarinet. Actually, a party horn is similar. Okay, now what we have here is, you can see, try to get where I can point to this here carefully. You have this brass tube called a shallot, and that has a slot cut in the top. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble getting a focus on it. But if we can view it from the side, you can see there's a flat piece laying across the top. That is the reed. So it's like the mouthpiece of a clarinet. The shallot is the mouthpiece, And the brass reed is the equivalent of that cane reed that a clarinet has. And you notice there's a wire pressing against that, and you can adjust that for tuning and sometimes to control volume. So there's the wire, the shallot, and the reed. Now, a reed pipe is used to get some of the brighter sounds. If we had an oboe stop, certainly that would be using reed pipes. This organ doesn't have that, but we do have some stops in the trumpet category. And those are reeds too, including the horizontal trumpet en chamade. Now we are on the lower level in the swell. You can see the shutters here, and you can see the great pipes just the other side of those shutters. The pipes you see here are an open flute called a nocturne. That is pitched at 4 foot, so it plays an octave higher than you would expect from the keys you're playing. Next to that is a 2 foot, so that plays 2 octaves up. That adds some brightness to whatever ensemble of stops you've got. And you have the same kind of pipes on both sides. So it's low C is on one side, C sharp is on another. Then we have the mixture, which reinforces some very high harmonics in the pipes. That's these short pipes. And then here we have the trompette, or trumpet. And this goes up to 8 foot pipes. And somewhere it's extended to 16. Here you see some of the lower notes of the trumpet, and they even have a couple of bends so you can fit a little extra length in. And that's one of the ways they get things to fit in a sometimes somewhat tight space. Also, behind me here are big wooden pipes. This is for a flute called a gedeckt, and these big pipes are stopped at the top. That gives you a quite different sound, but it also makes it possible to get a 16-foot pitch out of an 8-foot pipe. So that's a space-saving way, and an effective way, to get some of your low bass. So this stop plays at 8-foot pitch in the swell, and the parts you're looking at here, see again, flue pipes. This part plays in the pedal because this is going down to a lower pitch than we have available in the swell. We are now in the upper level of the swell. You can see the rest of the gedeckt, those stopped wooden pipes. In front of that is the 8-foot viol d'amour. That's kind of the fundamental stop in the swell, and it's often used along with a similar set of pipes called a viol celeste. I will demonstrate that effect from the console, but basically when you have a celeste, that's a second set of pipes that's tuned a little bit sharp, and that out of tuneness is used actually as a special effect. These short pipes you see here are the larigot. That plays pitches 2.5 octaves above the note you're playing. So that again is reinforcing some high harmonics. Then these things, this is a Trichter Regal, a very bright and kind of thin sounding reed, which is at 4-foot pitch. You can only make those down to a certain size, and then they go to flue pipes at the top, and that's normal. Now, sometime in the maybe late 70s, I guess, a Gemshorn Celeste was added. Now, a Gemshorn is a set of flue pipes tapered, so they're broader at the bottom and get thin as you go to the top. And that gives it a special character that's sort of a hybrid between a string and a flute. And there are two ranks of pipes here because, again, it's a celeste. Now that's played from the grate, but it's actually situated inside the swell. That was the last thing that was added to this organ after it was put in. And you can see the trompette enchimade from above, including the magnets for the key action. Now, here we see the 8-foot principle of the grate. Right behind that, these pipes with the chimneys, that's a roar flute. Roar is a German term referring to that tube on the top. So those are a hybrid between a stopped flute and an open flute, so a little brighter than the gedeckt. Behind this are the pipes of the mixture, which again are reinforcing higher pitches. Unfortunately, it's very awkward to get to the pipes in front of the grate principle. I will talk more about those when I'm back at the console.